in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, and if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers. And then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers. Half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the Basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere, where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere. You don't think I see you crying in your cars, but I do. Sometimes I can feel it at a red light, someone at my side trying to muddle through. See them wiping their eyes in their rear view, like black hole sun in the sky, why the fuck won't you come when I need you? Well, this moment in time is as close as we'll be and as far as I'll meet you. Two windows in between us, new moon in the house of Venus. One stranger who sees you and reads your features knows that your alibi might be tight, but it's not quite leak-proof. So if you're sitting at the light and you're crying in your car, just know that I see you. And it's a 50-50 that I'm bloodshot, gun-shy, once bitten, twice tried, ribs pried wide to the sky till I'm see-through.
That's you, in case you don't recognize yourself.
You don't think I see you struggling to breathe, but I do. I see you stumble in your everyday grief like I do. I try, but I do. I'm twice bitten too. My mind's split in two. My knuckles bright white from the 10 to the 2. And the song in my head is the theme for a fugue, a state of decay through the filter of corporate news, where they edit the grays and the blues. They whitewash the brown till they drown out the natural hues. And then it's just another fact to refuse, that the corporate ladders for hanging the company noose. Consider it one of your perks, after all it's communal in use. So you can come and hang till your legs go limp and they're shaking you loose. Now you watch 5 co-workers opt for the alternate exit, neatly suspended above where you wolf down your food. And your company gets its incentives embellished by harping on wellness, suggesting you'd best take time for your mental health after your 14 hours are through. Like we gave you a bottle to piss in and fixed up a noose on the crossbeam. Christ, what more can we do? So if you struggle to breathe any moment that you aren't asleep, then remember, most of Americans fear for their savings, fear for their shelter, fear for their babies. You aren't the fringe of exception, but rather a perfect example of capital's rule. And you're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. You're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. crying in your cars, but I do.
That's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contracts tossed and they're gone with the tide. And the heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this dreck and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip. Till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes. Because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you used saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards. They won't let you go. set you free, send you home. Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and they won't let you go. Set you free, send you home.
I was close enough to smell the fire. Jesus took the wheel and then he kicked me off the ride. I was busy shouting at myself from in the crowd, about to throw down and drag myself outside. I had to give myself the business. When I show myself forgiveness, it goes right between the eyes. Was looking past my shoulder, never focused on the prize. I stalked myself through burning sand the better part of 40 nights. I found myself staring in the mirror, yelling, go into the light. Cause I was in the rear view, staring at the highway, horrified. I was in the road ahead, arms wide, ready to be mummified. Gonna be the fella yelling how he's sick of always betting on his life. I'll also be the guy that brought the dice. Half a dozen chambers and I keep an empty 5. Only needed one to break the ice. Only needed one to clear my mind. Only needed one to stop time.
Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and they won't let you go. Set you free, send you home.
That brought the dice.
We're the ones who donate so you can win the race, then turn around and make a cash grab. And yet we turn around and thank you for the backstab. We only had to change the names on Trump-era hashtags to hashtag Biden lied, people died, hashtag Biden built the wall, and hashtag Biden is a fascist. That one's gonna get a workout this summer. Every gas attack, every time they come and cattle you and rush you in a charging armored mass attack. And the last thought that you'll have before your head hits the ground, splits, shatters, and then bounces back is how much they deducted for that body armor just before they gave. Of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the pith. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets and pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hun, it ain't a hearse, it's a reaper's stretch. How sweet, she said, bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead, where the thin blue line meets razor's edge, and where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections, step by step, till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. That's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe that's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs, all laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicer. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer, that 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers, who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. Still the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. All bled, bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Our headstones line each step as reminders. That's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. And the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then dines on the dead. The Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. The Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your mind, that it grinds yourself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led.
the liberals said. Thank you, Obama, for life in the red. Thank you for DAP and a pat on the head. Thank you for saving the banks, as millions are drowning their debt. Thank you for all of the fluff and the nothing you said. Thank you for proving we eat up identity politics. All of your policy better forgotten, just tell us what books you read. Tell us what record was top of your playlist, turning a wedding to Day of the Dead. What Quavo song went along on a heavy rotation, bombing Iraqis in bed. When they told you that 90% of your kills are civilian, what Jill Scott chorus was stuck in your head? What put you at rest after such a long day of convincing a nation it wasn't so deeply misled, that you weren't just Reagan with new age media training, who fed on our hopes like his daily bread, who preyed on the weak, who was never unwilling to serve you a speech to remind you the middle class needed to bleed, and you helped us succeed if you learned to accept it, and better yet, learn how to laugh as they bled. Round of applause, laughter erupts, mic gets dropped, it's the end of his set. And the crowd once hungry are now unstunned from the glow of celebrity, which is impressive, especially since they're contented to sit and be civil while all of the donors are fed. They thin out the herd by 1 million a week if it gives the elite an illusion of peace, like they're out of the path of the future we reap, and they won't be debris in the wake of its tread. But the future is now, bathe in the sound, drown in the dread. Hide in the lounge, hire more guards at your gatehouse, hire someone to come build you a safe house under your shed. Hide with your diamonds and files, the files you keep to yourself and the files you keep for the feds. Hide in the dark for a while and watch all the value regress. Watch all the worth of your wealth on this earth melt down in a pool with the rest of the cess. The affluence left over after the worldly collapse of the affluent. After it's back to the dirt with the rights of their birth, privileged smirks and their unpaid taxes, hashtag blessed. This has all been a nightmare, capitalism was only a test. So you need not weep and you need not repeat what the liberals said. We will not be saved by people who say that the water is safe while they look in your face and they pantomime sips of lead. Honey, nobody's lifting us out of this mess. Honey, nobody's lifting us out of this mess.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? And peace and be enslaved.
Yes.
So peace isn't the answer.
No.
Liberation is the answer. Liberation.
News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Yay, it's INN News. No, I hit it.
Wednesday.
I hit it. You just didn't hear it. I was like frantically hitting the button for you to have audio like during it. I'm like, oh God. Callum can't hear it. Like, anyway, what's up? It's INN News. It's me, Reef, with my co-host as always, Collin Radix-Carter, in the spaceship, trying to fly this thing on the ground and hopefully not crash and die. You know, that's how it works.
Well, whether we crash it or our government leaders crash the state of the world,
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't really matter at this point.
No. No.
So, I mean, the world is essentially, well, it's been to
The
shit, but it's
world is a
going more to shit if
vampire.
that is even possible. But I think that, well, I feel like that's kind of the story for us every week, is that the stuff that everyone else is talking about, we don't want to talk about because it's just, one, too depressing, two, everyone else is talking about it, and three, it's not the stuff that we should be talking about. It's nothing more than distraction.
I made a tweet yesterday that it just seems like so much of independent media is like striving to be the independent media version of the National Enquirer, you know,
Yes.
or the, what's the other one?
Yeah.
What's the paper, the black and white one, the World Week? Someone on chat will know. The other like National Enquirer that's even worse, that's like, Bat Baby stole my money, you know, like that shit. Right? But
Yeah.
like,
well, I just feel like Trump has gotten, and we saw this from Trump 1.0, like
Yeah.
he somehow just fucks up everyone's mind that that's all really we're talking about, and
the reality show of everything.
Weekly world news. So,
you know,
it was
RFK buys raccoon penis. News at 11.
And,
like,
you know,
what are we doing?
It's right. It's not the issue. Like Trump, sure. Like I get
Weekly
it.
World News, says the Accord lore. That is it. So
Yeah.
funny enough, what happened was when the National Enquirer switched to color, right? They kept their black and white presses and made that Weekly World News. They just like changed the so that they could have two newspapers essentially of fucking nonsense tabloids. So my grandpa used to have a stack of them in his like bathroom of National Enquirers. He loved that shit. I don't know why. You know?
Right.
Weird nonsense. Anyway, we have stories. We brought some actual stories.
Well, let me explain my stories a little bit. So,
Okay.
I'm not sure if you pulled this story, this article, or I did. I forget, but it was in our Discord feed,
Right.
at least over a week. So, and I kind of looked through it. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. There's definitely a lot of parallels to what's happening right now, but I think we might as well just have a playlist called Hidden History, because this is another one of these hidden history things,
right,
that, you know, like most people don't know, and especially given in Africa, is especially more so. It's so that's
Mr. Nick Mora,
guy named President Nkrumah, yes.
Or Sankara, which one? Ghanaian?
No, that's Nkrumah.
Okay.
Sankara's shoot, what country?
Burkina Faso.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Nkrumah is Ghana. So, but
Kwame, Nick Mora,
I'm not
right?
sure if you knew. I'm not sure if you knew about this, Reef, but France detonated an atomic bomb in Algeria in 1960, shortly after Ghana declared their independence. So I have some thoughts about that.
Okay.
So Nkrumah also had some thoughts about that. So we're actually going to take a look at that, and I think this is a good story to kind of relate to what's happening right now and the potential what could happen, especially given Iran's situation. So I think to shout out to Black Agenda Report for this article, but I think you'll definitely see the parallels between what Nkrumah was saying then and what is happening now. So we'll go into that first, and then later on tonight, because I felt like it, and then this is just another example, and it's of just how Democrats suck all the ass in the world. And I will keep saying that forever, especially since there's a lot of talk online and otherwise, like, and especially right now, I'm seeing like, oh, like Democrats are actually trying to do something in the states. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. States, fine. We're talking about federal level here. So I think I've seen maybe one or two outlets that might have reported on this. I think this will become a bigger story, or it'll get more prevalence as we head into the midterms. But and I think actually there's an update that in terms of voting regarding Israel sending weapons to Israel today. So I didn't include that, unfortunately. But I think this is kind of good precursor to the idea that Democrats are just basically giving you, flipping you the bird in terms of they're choosing genocide over you. So don't know what else more there is to say than that. And these are the people that are supposed to, and compared to what people are saying online, that's the reality. So, so want to get this head of this story before other people start talking about it. So we're going to talk about that later. And then what did you bring?
Well, I brought a bit of a odd story, but I felt like it was just irony that Israel planted a ton of trees and then they're all dying because they're non-native to the environment there. But we're just going to talk about some of that green colonialism that took place and what they tried to do. I think people haven't heard that little bit of history there. And we're going to cover NYU killing free speech as a whole for their students. They're now
so for context, we had to look this up. We did report on this last year in May during graduation season, and I think this relates to
what we covered then.
So this is kind of an update.
Yeah, well, it's like from that, this is the consequences of them now having to try and deal with that before this next graduation season, which is going to be coming up in like, I don't know, month or two. Basically. Like,
no, not even like in the next few weeks.
So,
like some places might be starting commencement speeches within the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. So, but yeah, that's going to be a story, and I brought a New York Post article that I'm going to rip out its guts and leave it on the floor because it's a fucking awful capitalist bootlicking framing. So we're definitely going to call that shit out. But yeah, that's what I brought. Should be a good stream tonight. So, as always, we appreciate all the donations we give. YouTube decides to take 30% of our money, and we would appreciate it if you went somewhere else to donate to us, like Ko-fi. You can scan the QR code, go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. Leave us a couple of bucks. We appreciate it. Look at all these people who've already given. Look at all these names up here. Look at you. You're good boys. Yeah, there's other places you could give. Cash App, PayPal, Patreon. Links are always in the description below. You can always use !donate if you're watching live. But like and sub, all the normal stuff. You ready to get started, Care Bear?
Yeah.
Cool.
So as I said earlier, my first story tonight, also a little interesting. I wouldn't say odd, but it's just more, this is almost unheard of. I never heard of this story before, but I think it's a great time to kind of talk about this, especially given what's happening in the Middle East right now. So as I said on the thumbnail, that's Kwame Nkrumah, who is the former president of Ghana.
Yep.
So he spoke on an atomic bomb that France detonated in Algeria in 1960. Now, I have a theory as to why France decided to do that, but we'll get into that later. But as I said, I'm fairly sure most of you, if not all of you, have never heard of this story at all, myself included. So what we're going to do, we're going to watch a clip, just give a brief description of what had happened. And then we'll get into what Nkrumah commented regarding this bomb.
By the way, weird aside, YouTube's made this like different player for like outside of YouTube, and it's awful. Like, look, where the pause button used to be, there's now a share button. So like for me to pause, I have to like weirdly click in the middle of shit. They're like rolling it out, and I fucking hate it. And everyone else probably hates it too. Just because they need to change some shit, I'm sure. I think it's because if it's not on YouTube, they'd rather the like default button be to share the YouTube. So like this is where people go normally. I don't know. Don't ask me shit, but like, and look, the volume's like all the controls are in different spots. Like here's the volume. I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it. I hate it. Like, anyway, you ready? 2, 1.
On the 13th of February 1960, France conducted its first nuclear test, codenamed Gerboise Bleu, or Blue Desert Rat. The Gerboise Bleu explosion was relatively large for a country's first nuclear test, around 4 times as powerful as the Hiroshima bomb. Amazingly, this nuclear test took place a few miles south of the Mediterranean Sea in northern Africa. At the time, the French authorities explained that the tests were being conducted in an uninhabited and desert area. Officially, France carried out a total of 17 above-ground nuclear tests in the country of Algeria. When these atmospheric tests...
Which, airburst, in that case, especially testing an airburst, part of the reason why, I mean, we've covered the victims of our nuclear testing, right, in the middle of America, who got all that, like, radiation all over them. Airbursts are, like, worse with that, right?
Right.
So, like, as opposed to, like, actually detonating on the ground, we're sending a ton in the air. But, yeah, it's...
France switched to an underground testing facility at another site in Algeria. Deep inside this mountain, they conducted an unknown number of nuclear tests. The French government has always maintained that its nuclear operations were carried out as safely as possible. Yet a confidential military report, first obtained by the French newspaper La Parisienne in 2010, indicated that soldiers had been used as guinea pigs to study the effects of radiation on human health. Michel Verger participated in the nuclear tests, and he said, "I was wearing shorts. We were made to lie face down on the ground, eyes closed and arms folded, and not watch the flash, but immediately afterwards we had to get up with an apparatus around our necks and measure and photograph the bomb." According to an Algerian scientist, nuclear testing also resulted in environmental degradation, such as the movement of sand dunes in an area already affected by wind erosion. Radiation furthermore led to a decline in livestock and biodiversity, including the disappearance of a number of migratory and endemic reptiles and birds. After a fierce war, Algeria gained its independence from France, but there was a secret clause in their break from French administration. In the Evian Agreement of March 1962, France was permitted to continue its nuclear testing program. The Algerian government granted France permission to continue carrying out nuclear tests at the B2 Namous site until 1986. Although some of the facilities used for the tests are now dismantled and the program has shut down, waste is still present above and below ground. An Algerian spokesperson said, "After conducting a range of tests, the 2 sites at Regan and Eka were handed back to us, but without providing any procedures to control or monitor future radioactivity." From the beginning of nuclear tests, France has set up a public policy of saying that they buried all nuclear waste after the test in the sand.
Sure they did.
But not everything was buried. People still find vitrified sand and contaminated rocks in the area that were left out in the open. And anything that was buried, the locations of these nuclear dumps were never revealed.
Nice.
This dark legacy shocks me, coming from a country I live in, coming from a country that respects its citizens and the environment. I guess researching history like this in the country I live in exposes me to possible criticism by French.
Yeah,
I mean, I
like said,
don't know
have you
where
ever-
he lives, but you know, I don't know if they do care about their people and the environment. But no, I've not heard about this specifically. So,
Right. Like I said, I have theory as to why, well, France, by extension, the West, was doing this in Africa.
right.
But let's get to the article now that we have a little bit of context. So,
These are
so once again, as I mentioned, this was written by editors from the Black Agenda Report, and actually most of this is Nkrumah's words. So they're just going to get into a little bit of what we heard already, and then he wrote an essay regarding this bombing that happened in Algeria. So, so Nkrumah said, "We are not freeing ourselves from centuries of imperialism and colonialism only to be maimed and destroyed by nuclear weapons." So, Black Agenda Report reports, in April 1960, Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of a newly independent Ghana, spoke at the Positive Action for Peace and Security in Africa held in the country's capital. The conference was organized in response to the first nuclear tests held on the African continent. On February 13, 1960, the French had detonated a 70-kiloton nuclear device, more than 4 times the strength of the bomb the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima, 3 miles south of the Syrian town of Regan, I guess that's how you say it, Algeria. For Nkrumah, as of all of Africa, the French atomic test became ground zero for the struggle against nuclear imperialism. Nkrumah called on Africa to stand up against this new barbaric weapon of the Europeans, tested on their land and on their people, and used for continued control. "We are not freeing ourselves from centuries of imperialism," he said, "only to be destroyed by nuclear weapons." For Nkrumah, the most potent response to the West's nuclear imperialism was unity. He reminded his audience that the poisonous fallout from nuclear war would never respect the arbitrary and artificial divisions forged by colonialism across our beloved continent. So I think what he's talking about there is what's it called? The shoot, what's that? Damn it.
I don't know.
It's gonna come to me, but it'll come to me. But where basically you were just basically chopped up Africa into different countries.
The Berlin Conference.
Berlin Conference. There we go.
Hey,
That's the way I think it's good job, Reef.
hey, member.
Today we have returned, in Nkrumah's words, to the age of nuclear madness. The U.S. and the Zionist entity attack on Iran on February 28th with a depraved double-tap missile strike on a girls' elementary school in the city of Nabab, Iran, and the assassination of the supreme leader, Ali Husseini Khamenei. But after promising a short war, a war that will end very soon, and a war that would last at first 4 to 5 days, then at most 4, 5, or 6 weeks, for the U.S., the war now appears endless. Operation Epic Fury is quickly becoming an epic failure. And with this failure has come loose talk in the white media, mainstream and otherwise, of the possible use of nuclear weapons on Iran as a last resort. Even though diminishing Iran's nuclear ambitions is one of the many lies used to justify the US/Zionist barbaric attack on the country. Nuclear madness, imperial arrogance between the US and the Zionists both have returned with a vengeance. And while their target is Iran, as Nkrumah pointed out in 1960, the whole of humanity is at stake. Kwame Nkrumah's speech at the Positive Action Conference for Peace was published in Liberation magazine as Against Nuclear Imperialism. We reprint it below. So these are his words here. And as he said, as you are all no doubt aware, the beginning of the year 1960 has seen the climax of ruthless and concerted outrages on the peace-loving people of our continent. The explosion of an atomic device in the Sahara by the French government and a wanton massacre just over a fortnight ago in the Union of South Africa of our brothers and sisters who were engaged in peaceful demonstrations against humiliating and repulsive laws of the South African government are two eloquent events in this climax, which is a signpost to the beginning of the end of foreign supremacy and domination in Africa. In spite of several protests to General de Gaulle by the whole African continent and the United Nations General Assembly against exploding an atomic bomb on our continent, the French government arrogantly exploded this nuclear device on our soil. As a result of this callous and inhuman attitude, the government of Ghana took immediate action by freezing the assets of French firms in Ghana. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Other African leaders and governments, indignant at this outrage, took other decisive measures against the French government. I hope our reactions and protests will prevent the government of France from exploding further atomic bombs on our continent. It would be a great mistake to imagine that the achievement of political independence by certain areas in Africa will ultimately mean the end of the struggle. It is merely the beginning of the end of the struggle. We must watch out for and expose the various forms of the new imperialism in which we are threatened. Among these, we must mention nuclear imperialism that dawned upon Africa on a tragic day last February, when the French government exploded an atomic bomb on our soil. Winds carried the poisonous debris from the explosion to various parts of Africa, including Ghana, and thus confronted the confident forecast by so-called meteorological experts of France, who claimed that there was no wind that could carry radioactive debris more than 700 miles from the site of the explosion. From the point of view of genetics, these atomic tests are extremely bad and can have the most disastrous effects. Last December and January, an international team consisting of representatives from Ghana and other parts of Africa, as well as members from Britain, the United States, and even from France itself, attempted to enter the testing site at Regan in the Sahara. They left Ghana under the leadership of the Reverend Michael Scott, but were prevented from proceeding beyond the Upper Volta border by armed guards under the direction and control of French authorities. In order to make further attempts impossible, their vehicles and equipment were seized and have been kept by the French authorities up until now. Although they did not reach Regan, they aroused many people to the dangers of nuclear imperialism. The team brought home to us the fact that the victims of these bombs are not less human just because they probably never be known. Positive action has already achieved remarkable success in the liberation struggle of our continent, and I feel sure that it can further save us from the perils of this atomic arrogance. If the direct action that was carried out by the international protest team were to be repeated on a mass scale, or simultaneously from various parts of Africa, the result could be as powerful and as successful as Gandhi's historic Salt March. We salute Mahatma Gandhi and we remember in tribute to him that it was in South Africa that his method of nonviolence and non-cooperation was first practiced in the struggle against the vicious race discrimination that still plagues that unhappy country. But now, positive action with nonviolence, as advocated by us, has found expression in South Africa in defiance of the oppressive past laws. This defiance continues in spite of the murder of unarmed men, women, and children by the South African government. We are sure that the will of the majority will ultimately prevail, for no government can continue to impose its rule in face of the conscious defiance of overwhelming masses of its people. There is no force, however impregnable, that a united and determined people cannot overcome. Further positive direct action against French nuclear tests might, for instance, take the form of a mass nonviolent attempt to proceed towards the testing area. It would not matter if not a single person ever reached the site, for the effect of hundreds of people from every corner of Africa and from outside it crossing the artificial barriers that divide Africa to risk imprisonment and arrest would be a protest that the people of France, with the exception of the de Gaulle government, and the world could not ignore. Let us remember that the poisonous fallout did not and never will respect the arbitrary and artificial divisions forged by colonialism across our beloved continent. In my view, therefore, this conference ought to consider the setting up of a training center where volunteers would learn the essential disciplines of concerted positive action. Such an establishment might also become the center for such needed research into the philosophy and technique of positive action, which, in the age of nuclear madness and apartheid arrogance, offers the greatest single hope for peace, security, and brotherhood among mankind. General de Gaulle is reported to have said recently that while other countries have enough nuclear weapons to destroy the whole world, France also must have nuclear weapons in which to defend itself. I would say here, and I doubt you all can join me, that Africa is not interested in such defense, which means no more than the ability to share in the honor of destroying mankind. We in Africa wish to live and develop. We are not freeing ourselves from centuries of imperialism and colonialism only to be maimed and destroyed by nuclear weapons. We do not threaten anyone, and we renounce the foul weapons that threaten the very existence of life on this planet. Rather, we put our trust in the awakening conscience of mankind, which rejects this primitive barbarism and believes firmly in positive nonviolent action. The cardinal principle upon which the peace and security of this continent depends is a firm insistence that Africa is not an extension of Europe or any other continent. A corollary of this principle is a resolution that Africa is not going to become a cockpit for the Cold War, or marshalling ground for attack on either West or East, nor it is going to be an arena for fighting out the East-West conflict. In this particular sense, we face neither East nor West. We face forward. We welcome men of goodwill everywhere to join us, irrespective of their race, religion, or nationality. When I speak of Africa for Africans, this should be interpreted in the light of my emphatic declaration that I do not believe in radicalism and colonialism.
Racialism and colonialism.
The concept, Africa for Africans, does not mean that other races are excluded from it. No. It only means that Africans who naturally are in the majority in Africa shall and must govern themselves in their own countries. The fight is for the future of humanity, and it is a most important fight. Our salvation and strength and our only way out of these ravages in Africa lies in political union, and those who doubt the feasibility of such a union appear to have forgotten their history lessons too soon. The vastness of Russia and all the towering obstacles of her beginning did not prevent that country from building its greatness in unity by the union of 18 different republics. The sprawling spread of America and her original colonial difficulties have not stopped that country from building a union of 49 states. If these countries can do this, why cannot Africa? I repeat that nothing but our own groundless fears and doubts can stop us from building a real practical political union. But remember, our fears are traitors and make us lose what we might often achieve by fearing to attempt. This is not merely a dream. This is an objective worthy and capable of achievement, and I, for one, am prepared to serve under any African leader who is able to offer the proper guidance in this great issue of our time. So dear is this African Union to our hearts, that in our proposed Republic Constitution, a definite provision has been incorporated by a concrete proposal that Ghana's sovereignty should be surrendered in whole or in part as a contribution towards the attainment of this great objective. Fellow Africans, permit me the liberty of stating in categorical terms that the greatness of this objective so transcends all other purposes and its sublimity is so profound that it behooves each and every one in the leadership of this struggle to endeavor to subdue his own little interests, his pride and ego, and other petty considerations which merely serve to create needless obstacles in our path. The overriding importance of African unity defends the sacrifice of all personal, tribal, and regional objectives and considerations. So there was a lot there.
Yeah.
But to give some context, so Ghana got their independence 3 years prior to this. So my thought is, and a lot of West African countries at this time were gaining independence. So in my mind, this is the West way of saying, we still own you. So, and given what's happening in Iran right now, you could definitely see that parallel.
Yeah.
Because Iran doesn't have any nuclear weapons, but yet the US, with the aid of Israel, is threatening to bomb the country to kind of keep it subservient to us and our interests. Same thing here. So this is what I believe ultimately in this whole thing that Nkrumah is calling out, and is calling for all of Africa to unify against this threat. What is very apparent, obviously, is that he's using a nonviolent approach, kind of like MLK, kind of like Mahatma Gandhi. You know, like Gandhi has his own issues, but whatever. Which I understand given the context, maybe the context of the time, that made, I think they might have done that. He might have proposed a nonviolent stance given
still like applicable at that point, you know. Like, I mean, maybe, as far as
I think it maybe, but I think it was more necessity because they didn't have the firepower to strike back in the way that the West could.
Right.
So, you know, if it were that they had the means and the technology, which ironically they do, but you know, like Europe has exploited it for our own purposes, then I think he might have had a different stance. But I think he was willing to use a nonviolent approach in essence for survival because of the limited, and I'm talking more about the know-it-all to produce and to create their own version of weapons that the West had. They didn't have that kind of technology or the know-how, and they still don't. So I think that was him
non-proliferation, right?
Sure,
where it's like, you know, no one should get it, which I think that's a pretty decent like take at this point. Take everyone's fucking, you know, like bombs away. But I do think that like we've seen, I mean, it's been one of the only things to keep Western aggression from coming at you, you know?
Right.
Like, I mean, you can look at, you know, North Korea, like the minute you get nukes, it's like, maybe we won't fuck with you, you know?
Right, exactly.
And like that's
kind of
a real good incentive for a lot of these countries. Is there still no African countries with nuclear weapons?
Let me look this up. I would figure maybe South Africa, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, and he talked about, speaking of South Africa, he talked about, you know, the non-violent approach to ending apartheid in South Africa, right? You know, I think there's a lot of nuance just in that argument alone with, you talk about the economic fight that they actually fought against South Africa, you know? So, like, it wasn't just non-violent, you know? So,
so no African country currently possesses nuclear weapons, and the continent is a nuclear weapons-free zone. So, for historical context, South Africa is the only African country to have developed nuclear weapons, completing a small arsenal by 1982. However, it voluntarily dismantled its nuclear weapons program in 1989 and joined the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty as a non-nuclear weapon state in 1991. This makes South Africa unique in Africa's unique nuclear history, as it retains the technical knowledge to restart a program, but has chosen not to do so. So, yeah.
Well, that's why I asked.
That being said, that leaves Africa still very vulnerable.
Right.
And given where we're at right now with Iran, like now, well, the thing is, and this is the gag, is that the former Ayatollah was against nuclear weapons given his religion, given Islam.
Yeah.
So he was showing more principle over us and BB, who are allegedly Christian and Jews, who are willing to wipe them out. So this is kind of where I'm kind of like, I got the nonviolence considering the context of the time, and you're probably right. It probably would have worked then.
Yeah, it
But
could
I
have.
would have argued like could have, but I would have argued even now, well, in our context, thinking about that now, like if you have the nuclear weapons, no one will fuck with you. So that would give you an advantage, as we're seeing with Iran is showing the West up with nothing, but that's kind of like the last resort that we have, especially with Trump. It's like, oh, I can bomb this bitch. So, and given what Nkrumah said in terms of like the after effects of such a bomb would affect Africa, I would guess more readily given its location.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, and we talked about Traore last week, where he was basically like, we're going to defend ourselves in our country. That's kind of the stance that I think basically everyone in the global South now needs to take. And if that means having a nuclear program, I mean, so be it.
Yeah.
Because Israel and the US cannot afford to be the bullies anymore. Especially since, as you reported, that Israel illegally has nuclear weapons. Why?
Right.
No one else in the Middle East can. So, it's either everyone has them or no one has them, as you said. We shouldn't use that as a crutch hold to enter in countries to steal their resources, which is what we're still doing.
Yeah. Yep. I also feel like the minute some of these countries get it is the minute America might go, oh, maybe proliferation might be an option.
Right.
Like,
right.
So it depends, but like, I'm definitely not for having, Armageddon level weapons for everyone. But at this point,
so I do want to end with this tweet from Dr. CBS, who tweeted, "Neocolonialism is also the worst form of imperialism. For those who practice it, it means power without responsibility, and for those who suffer from it, it means exploitation without redress." So that was Kwame Nkrumah, who wrote in his book, Neocolonialism, The Last State of Imperialism. So,
okay.
So again, very interesting story. Again, another hidden history thing. Again, didn't know about this atomic bomb. Well, we hear about Nagasaki and Hiroshima in America like up the ass, but never heard of this before. Just again, kind of shows you Africa goes through shit that we don't talk about, like in our world history, But definitely interesting with the parallels of what's happened, with what Nkrumah is saying then to what is happening now, and in the situation that Iran is right now, as it's demonstrating its swagger against the West, and how the West could potentially respond, especially with like a trigger-happy Trump, who has said, like, I will bomb this shit. And like, I believe him when he says it. So, but as I said, I think a very interesting story to kind of look at, because again, it's like these things aren't new under the sun. It's just like a repeat of things that have happened before. But I think if we know more of our history, then it gives us a better idea of what's happening currently and how potentially we could prevent a lot of these things. So that would be a good story to share.
Yep.
But sharing stories like these are why we are demonetized. Well, no, we're not demonetized. That's the good news. The not so good news is if you give through YouTube, they'll take 30% of your money. Don't do that. I mean, you could if you want, but if you want to ensure that all of your money goes towards the network and our channel and the show, You can scan the QR code you see on your screen or go to the Ko-fi link you see at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're in the YouTube chat and you're live right now, you can type in !donate, all one word, and the link will pop up. You can give anything as little as $1. And as we always say, especially we know that times are hard and will get harder within the next few months. Please give only if you have the means to. Any money you have, make sure you take care of yourselves and your families, your neighbors, your communities first. That being said, if you're able to give any amount, we more than appreciate it. If you want to give monthly or if you want other ways to give, you can go to our description where we have links to our Patreon, Substack, and Cash App. Yep. Especially if you want to give monthly, that will be also a huge help. And like I said, YouTube suppresses us to high heaven. We want to try and get a lot of our clips out to more people to be able to see. So please, especially if you cannot give, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to hit the share button to fight the suppression. And make sure you leave a comment because allegedly that helps with YouTube figuring, oh, this is actually a good channel to push. And help us get to 3K. We're about 100 away, I think, at this time. So thank you guys for subbing and watching our clips and our show. And thanks for watching.
Means I'm going to have to change that slide soon. You know? So,
sure. Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely buy within the next month, I would guess.
Yeah.
Or two.
We've been averaging now, since the demonetization went off, like 60 something a month new subs. So appreciate y'all for showing up. But Kamishori Kate said, damn late. No worries. What the rewind button is for. So Accord Lord said no clue about this. You know, they had never heard about it. And said thank you for bringing it.
That's why I love doing these stories, because we all learn something.
Yep.
So
plus with stuff like that, there's so much like misinformation out there now to like deal with, like, you know, the historical context helps you understand what's happening now, regardless. Just having the knowledge of like, oh, there's some testing that happened here, and oh, here in America there was a ton of people that like were injured, and you know, like we've covered that before too. So all the little details you can add up, put together. But anyway,
right. But I think it just kind of shows. I think it just gives a larger picture of just how exploitive the West is.
Yeah.
And how they'll use whatever means necessary in order to dominate the world stage, especially within the global South. So it's not just, you know, it's not just limited to what we're seeing now. This has been a thing. So I think that it just gives us that perspective of, you know, how devious the West is, and how, and also kind of gives, you know, to people in the global South, it helps you. You cannot help but feel a little more sympathy for those folks, given what they've had to go through in light of shit that we're doing, and how a lot of those countries now are decimated due to our influence, intended or not.
Yep. Agreed. Speaking of the West doing whatever it wants to try to control things, I'm going to get to our next story. So, Collin, I found this story and I found it ironic, mainly. And I figured I should bring it just for that. So it was a little Twitter thread I found. And you're probably wondering what green colonialism is. Well, we're going to get to that. But this is from Dr. Ghada Sasa, PhD. I've actually linked, they have like a big, you know, accredited like discussion of this with all the ACA credits that you could ever want, and click through and go look through. I've linked it in the doobly-doo. So you're welcome to go check that out. But they saw this Haaretz article that was like in Hebrew that they had translated. And it's actually behind a paywall that even I couldn't get around. So I figured I would just take their summary of it. But the Israeli forest is dying. More than 1 million pine trees died in a year, and no one knows exactly why. Well, this doctor might have some ideas. So, they just read the new Haaretz article about Israeli planted pines are suddenly dying en masse, and it is absolutely worth dissecting. Here are a summary and my observations as a Palestinian scholar who writes on green colonialism. So, Israel boasts about having planted 250 million trees since its founding. 90% of those trees are not indigenous. Funny how that works. Absolutely 50% of the planted trees are, quote, Aleppo pines. Yes, full of it. Aleppo pines that originated in the south of Europe. Again, irony. Mainly Spain and North Africa. The article doesn't note they're invasive. Like, as would any tree non-native be. It's interesting. But Israel planted monocultures of these pines over the ruins of Palestinian villages to hide their existence, prevent Palestinians from returning, assert claim over the land, and greenwash its stage image. I described the weaponization of tree planting as green colonialism. This is the quote. So, pine trees, Collin, as a person who literally grew up around pine tree farms, are like the fastest growing tree, practically. You know, they grow straight, vertical, real nice for lumber, right? So, you know, if you're going to plant trees and you want them to grow quickly, pines are going to be it. So that's part of it. And it's lucrative, you know, but the article shows pictures of pines dying in the forest of the martyrs from last month. Israel planted 6 million trees there to symbolize the 6 million Jews who were killed by the Nazis. What the author doesn't state, however, was they were planted over 5 Palestinian villages. Israel expelled hundreds of inhabitants from the 5 PS villages of Deir Amr, Kirbat El Amr, Kasla, Bat Malmez, and Akur before destroying them and planting the forest in 1951. Every pile of stones was a home. Here is a picture of Akur from 2023 with graying trees. So he's talking about this one right here. So, and the trees here that are starting to lose color. Israel chose these pines since they grew quickly and Europeanized the land. Zionists also claimed these trees dominated Palestine when it fell under the control of the ancient Hebrews. However, the pines died quickly due to their flammability and susceptibility to pests and droughts. Anyone remember the wildfires that were happening in? Okay. Also part of the problem, and I don't know if you know this, but pine trees burn like hell on earth. They are just full of oil. All those pine needles, full of oil, they melt. The trees melt. Okay? Ridiculous. It's why here in Florida, where we have nice pine forests, right, we do prescribed burnings so that we burn little bits of the forest so the whole thing doesn't fucking go up tomorrow, right? So, anyway, the Haaretz article reveals Israeli pines are now turning gray, completely drying up and dying in the region around Jerusalem and even further in Al-Nakba, the south of historic Palestine, particularly Sensara Forest, Lahav Forest, and Latir Forest, largely due to drought, right? Where this is a desert environment. So, unrecognized.
Someone in the chat said,
pines require a lot of water. Yes, they do.
So if you're not in a, like, but that and all makes no damn sense. Like, why would you plant pines in, like, I would argue, like, in a desert region of the world? Like, you would think that they would know this back then, that they would think, oh, this is probably not a good tree to plant.
Well, they went with Aleppo pines where they thought it was close. Like, if you're getting something from North Africa, you know, I think they probably thought this could work, you know, but like no one took a second thought to, that too.
That, but
you know, also pines themselves are like, their lifespans are not as long as you would think, you know, not compared to some other tree types and whatever. So, but, unironically, Bedouin villages have also been destroyed to make way for the plantation of Israeli man-made forest in Al-Nakab. Instead of making the deserts bloom, afforestation has been desertifying the region and increasing local temperatures due to high water consumption, as we were saying. Like, and making it more of a desert, like, than it was previously. So, Israeli pine monocultures have also been called pine deserts, even by Israeli researchers, since they shed needles that acidified the land and eroded biodiversity, weakening the health of the local ecosystems and making them more susceptible to disease. It's literally like if you planted one type of crop in an area, you know, you're just ruining the soil. So, especially in an environment that's not deemed to like handle these types of trees. Like forests are a real fucking web of interlocking fauna and flora that all work together to sustain itself as an ecosystem, right? Like, you throw a big fucking, you know, monoculture in there, you're gonna fuck shit up. So the article theorizes that the large fire that erupted last year in April near Jerusalem also contributed to the death of 1 million pines, since it radiated heat and allowed pests to travel more easily. With the drying of pines and climate change, the situation is only worsening. The two main takeaways from the article are that, one, we are witnessing what may be called a land intifada. For decades, Israeli planted pines couldn't adapt to the land, and now they're collectively dying. The oaks, olives, oranges, and figs, the black goats and camels, are returning. The ruins of the homes Israel desperately tried to conceal are revealed once more, and their original owners are able to return, rebuild their societies, grow trees that actually bear fruit, and tend to their lands in a sustainable manner. The Jewish National Fund fucked up. Like, it can come back if you actually put native crap there. Still gonna be tough. You're gonna have to like probably supplement and all that shit. You're gonna have to like get some. If the soil is super acidic, you're gonna have to deal with that. You know, you're gonna have to go put some potash out there and whatnot. Put something super basic and fix the soil, which on a scale of forests is going to be super difficult. The Israeli state and its precursor is finally admitting that its project of making the desert bloom was a massive failure, that the desert landscape will return to An-Nakab, so will the native flora. JNF chief forester is cited in the article stating nationwide, it will be a more open forest, less dense, more diverse forest, with more broadleaf trees and fewer pines. This is the reality, and it will happen without us. Decolonization is inevitable. It's not just about invasive species and climate change. Israel's genocide has caused severe pollution. Its displacement of natives who developed ecological knowledge over millennia and extermination of non-humans like black goats it deemed destructive also deteriorated the land. Similarly, on Turtle Island, we'll see how the displacement of natives, suppression of their fire practices, and plantation of Australian eucalyptus trees fueled fires. It is only through the return of lands to indigenous peoples worldwide and abolition of capitalism the earth can heal. And sometimes Earth's going to do that regardless of what the fuck is happening with us. So, you know, Mother Nature don't care. It's going to do what it do.
Again, given climate change, it'd be a lot harder to, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but
swings and roundabouts. If you've got more hot water and more storms and more, you know, everything. I mean, until greenhouse gases completely take effect, you know, just more violent and unpredictable weather, you're going to have a bad time. Thoughts?
One, appreciate the story, but so first off, thank you for that. But yeah, just so it's not just human like life being lost. This is flora.
Yeah.
Like in terms of, again, I can't get over the fact like you're trying to take a species of tree that is not native to the land to try and grow it for whatever reason, only for you to kill them off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, and damage the land that essentially you and Palestinians want to live on. Like,
well, and they also use this with like making national forests, like we would here, but doing that as settler colonialism itself by like encroaching with it.
No, it's just so bizarre to me. Like,
yeah,
like
let's quickly grow a bunch of trees,
right?
Steal this land,
but for what? Like, you're just better off just seeing like the natural flora and fauna that's there. You know,
right.
Like, why add to it and make it worse? You know, in the process. So that's kind of what I find wild. Well, yeah, I mean, but that's what I kind of find wild about it. I mean, it'd be one thing if you were trying to profit off of it, yes, but like you're not even profiting from it because it's like they're dying. So it's like,
yeah,
if anything, it's taking more resources away from those resources that were there already. So that's why I'm kind of like, this makes no sense. It's just kind of like,
well, they were mainly
let's
using it
just to kick the Palestinians out and make no evidence of them actually, like, that's
right.
how sadistic it is without having the forethought of
and
maybe
land
we should
theft.
consider what type of tree and like
right
where we should plant them, and is this going to be a viable tree to, like, at least if you're going to do that, try and make money off of it or whatever, like sell them as Christmas trees or some shit, but like you can't even do that. So
yep,
yeah, I just think it's kind of wild considering they went through all these lengths just to erase as much Palestinian influence there is on the land, only for the land to essentially give them a fuck you, and it's turning on them. I mean, it's delicious in that regard, but excess in that regard that, you know, it may not be viable for anyone to use, like, in the near future.
Yep. Agreed. And hopefully Mother Nature continues to fuck over the Israelis, you know? So, but, you know, talking about these things is why YouTube's shadow banned us to hell and still decides to take 30% of our money. So if you would like to give to us and keep the lights on, you can go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network or scan the QR code on your screen now and help us out with a few dollary dues. We appreciate it. Otherwise, like and subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We did it. Chat's holding up, I see. Kamishwari Kate, I had no idea the nefarious cover-up, but I've been aware of the plantings and fundraising for the plantings. He says she remembers there was always fundraisers for these trees planting. The fundraising and tour groups for planting trees has been going on for years and years. Yep. And they do it in a couple of places, but usually there's like some smarter horticulturalists that are like, maybe we shouldn't put this species in, you know. Like there's plenty of like, you know, my mother hates non-native plants, and for all sorts of reasons. I mean, there is some options, like if you're going to do non-native plants, like, you know, it's like wisteria here in this country. Fucking awful. Don't plant it. It's invasive as fuck. Stop doing it. I don't care if it looks pretty. Find another thing that looks pretty. All right? Like, you know, but yeah. It's like when people plant bamboo and they don't know how it grows. It's a grass. It grows like a grass. Got a little layer under the thing and it stretches itself out and puts stuff up. You know, real shallow root system. You can control it that way. Put it in a planter. You know, don't let it ever escape. Torture it. Keep it in its little box. You know, but yeah, I definitely thought it was interesting. Anyway, Accord Lord, I live in an evergreen state. It's almost pines and it's almost all pines in the forest. Well, there's a band of the southern United States called the Piney South. We're also full of them. So goes all the way up, heads into those evergreen areas and whatnot. You start getting into the like deciduous forest and tundra-y biomes that live in the northern United States. But well, you're to get to our next one?
Yep.
I think so.
I think this will be relative. It should be, yes, sure. But basically this is just another story of like why Dems are suck all the ass, and I don't think that has been mentioned enough, especially on social media. There's just a lot of influencers who are trying to give cover to Dems for nothing, and they don't deserve the cover up, honestly. But I will say this time and time again, you know, Democrat, as a party, do not give a fuck about their constituents. Constituents ask for something, and they basically give you the bird. Oh, like, so just the very arrogance of the party is why we shouldn't fuck with them. But it's hard for me because it's like, I get tired of all these influencers, and you know the big ones, like, who at best might have a tepid critique of the Democrats, but then they would be like, but they also kind of go in with the kind of hope that Democrats can actually do something. And it's like, no, they don't want to. And, you know, I just feel like I scream about this in the ether, but I think, you know, only because, you know, especially on the left, people are like, well, you know, like, this is why, like, lefts hate, like, the left expects the best. And, like, yeah, as you should. Like, if people do want something, then we shouldn't, like, second guess ourselves or accept less just to fit within the means of, like, our leaders doing something. So, as minimal as they do it, if they do it at all. So that being said, I wanted to report on the story. I haven't seen many people talk about this yet, but I'm sure they will, maybe within the next few months as we get closer to the midterms.
Right.
And more people will hopefully, but like start questioning Democrats in terms to their alliance to Israel. And again, it's not limited to Trump and the Republicans. But I heard about this online last week. Apparently there was a DNC thing that Kamala and Cory Booker attended. Like, why would you have Kamala attend the very thing and she lost the last, who knows, whatever. But so as you know, the constituent Democratic base overwhelmingly loathes Israel right now. And with good reason, given the stories that we've talked about, just even in this last segment that you did. But according to Mike Lukowitz from Truth Out, Democrats reject resolution condemning AIPAC money in primaries. Democrats chose genocide over winning in 2024, one Palestinian rights advocate said. When does it stop? Never. It won't stop. But anyway, let's continue. Democratic Party leaders had a chance the growing influence of dark money and corporate outside spending on Democratic races, particularly AIPAC, which recently pumped tens of millions of dollars into Democratic parties in primaries in New Jersey and Illinois.
Illinois.
A draft of the resolution stated by that massive outside spending by groups on candidates based on positions regarding international conflicts or foreign governments raises concerns about undue influence on debate and policymaking, potentially constraining electing officials' ability to represent the views of their constituents. The resolution specifically called out AIPAC by name. The DNC cost Democrats votes in the 2024 elections. DNC members also sent to the working group a resolution calling for an end to the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran, pointing to potential war crimes, like actual, but okay.
Right.
It's a suspected U.S. strike on a girls' school in Manab that killed at least 175 people, most of them children, on February 28th. The Middle East Working Group, which includes members with diverging views on Israel, held its fourth meeting this week, but has been slow to agree on an agenda. Hamid Benas, communications director at the Institute for Middle East Understanding Policy Project, said the group does not appear on track to accomplish much before voters go to the polls in November. So just basically more of the same bullshit that we're seeing from Democrats, like,
Yep.
vote for us because Trump bad. That's basically what it's amounting to, or at least seemingly amounting to.
Or whoever the Republicans are going to put up. But yes. Well, the midterms,
Right.
yes.
Yes.
So
the Democratic Party seems asleep at the wheel. No, they're not. And it's not responding to this very quick and very influential public opinion shift on Israel, Benas told Truthout in an interview. However, some Democrats know that the party cannot forever avoid either U.S. financial and military support for Israel's expansionist conquests or the influence of AIPAC. One DNC member speaking on the condition of anonymity said that they had received direct calls about the resolutions from 2 presidential aspirants who would have to answer for the DNC's positions on Israel and AIPAC if they run, according to Politico. Gee, I wonder who those people
right.
are.
Yeah.
Take your guesses, everyone, in the comments who you think they are. Meanwhile, Israel's violent apartheid and ethnic cleansing, perpetuated with U.S. weapons and funding, continues unabated, according to the American Friends Service Committee's Just Peace Global Policy Director Mike Merriman Locks. The failure of the DNC to even take minimal action in the face of ethnic cleansing and genocide is shameful, Merriman Lott said. Merriman Lott said the DNC's tabling of the resolutions on a Palestinian state and military support to Israel came as the Israeli government announced 34 new settlements in the occupied West Bank, where extremist settlers are violently forcing Palestinians from their homes with support from the Israeli government and military. The DNC resolutions reaffirm that such settlements are illegal under international law.
Do something about it,
The
please.
approval of these new settlements follows a year of extreme violence by the Israeli military and settlers in the West Bank that has killed hundreds of Palestinians and displaced tens of thousands from their homes, Merriman Lott said in an interview. Despite the 6-month-old ceasefire, Israel has bombed Gaza on 36 of the last 34 days, killing at least 107 people. In a memo urging DNC members to adopt the resolutions on Palestine and AIPAC, IMEU pointed to polls showing that vast majority of Democrats, 70% in August 2025, agree with leading human rights groups that Israel is committing the crime of genocide in Gaza. Support for providing U.S. military aid to Israel has plummeted across the political spectrum, including among Republicans and especially younger voters. New polling found notably strong support for Palestinian rights in Texas, an historically red state. According to a poll released on April 6 by the IMEU Policy Project and conducted by Data for Progress, 76% of voters in the March 3rd Texas Democratic Senate primary agree that Israel is committing genocide, and 80% support ending weapons funding to Israel. Nationwide, a Pew Research survey released on April 7 found that 80% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents hold unfavorable views of Israel, compared to 69% in 2024 and 53% in 2022. Bendas said UMEU consulted with Democrats on the party's own autopsy of the 2024 elections, which they have yet to release right away.
Yeah.
That autopsy concluded that Kamala Harris lost significant support in the presidential race due to the Biden administration's policy for providing seemingly limitless funding for Israel's genocide in Gaza. We are just not seeing any movement from the Democratic Party leadership to adjust from this reality, Bendas said. There is no urgency to react to what will clearly be an issue for many of their own voters in the November midterms.